Hey, Bobby.
Good morning. Good morning. How you guys doing this morning?
Oh, we're good, good. Bobby, before we get into you and your son, I want to talk about your daughter. Forget you two guys. Your daughter's the stud in the family. Never lost a hurdle meet in high school at Hoover High School the entire time. Was
after a mother, Barry.
2016 Gatorade girls track athlete of the state of Alabama. Let's talk about your daughter. Is it Britt Lee? Is that right, Britt Lee? Am I pronouncing?
Right. That's right, Britt Lee.
You two hadn't done squat compared to her. Let's talk about Britt Lee.
Oh, she's been amazing. She started really at an early age. I would say around about 10 or 11. Doing training hurdles and learning how to hurdle and she just was able to get a good rhythm and get the technique down very, very well. That's the key to any kind of hurdle race, is making sure you have the technique in the 3-step, in the early years. And as she began to develop, she just stayed focused for 4 years. It's been amazing. Indoors, she's won 4 indoors, 60-meter hurdles, and 4 outdoor 100-meter hurdles, and 4 outdoor 300-meter hurdles. So she went undefeated for 4 years in high school, which is amazing.
And she's going to LSU, Bobby?
Yes, sir. She signed with LSU, and we'll be attending LSU in the fall.
That's it's because of your wife. Your wife's the one that did it for you, not you. She got her going. That's no doubt because of her ability.
Yeah, I like to let people think that, but hey, well, you know the real deal.
I understand. I got it. Hey, Bobby was in Alabama, of course, when I was there. I think, and Bobby, you correct me. I think because I was up at Birmingham doing all kind of stuff, trying to get players. I mean, doing the right stuff. But didn't Jimmy Fuller recruit you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Jimmy Fuller recruited me. Yes, sir. He was the Birmingham was one of his areas that he recruited. He recruited some great players out of Birmingham.
Yeah, he recruited. He had a hard time with you, though. He had to work at it to get you. I know you were coming, but you kind of let him alone for a while, I think.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure Fuller earned his pay.
Yeah, I think you're right. Hey, the interesting thing to me is that Marlon is now going to play under his third defensive backfield coach. When he redshirted, and then Tucker last year, I think is right, and then now the coach from Kentucky.
Yes, sir.
I guess they're all doing or coaching the way that Nick Saban wants them to, because that's his specialty. But besides the personality of all three of the personalities is different. Is that a little bit different or difficult for him?
Well, he's pretty an adjustable guy. Now you are talking about 3 different personalities.
Yeah.
But you are talking about guys who at one point in time worked up under Coach Saban.
Yeah.
And Coach Saban obviously being a defensive back by position, when he played ball in high school and in college, and also a coach position. Yeah, he's always been somewhat involved with the DB and working together with the defensive back coach. So you may think of it as being a different guy, but it's still the same guys he's worked with in the past. So I think that makes the transition a lot easier.
Yeah.
When you have someone that's familiar with what you do and what you like to do on certain down and distance situations.
Yeah, well,
so that's been the key to the success.
Yeah. Same techniques, but just different personalities, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, and you know how it is when you're talking about an 18-year. Most as a coach. Yeah. When you get a player out there on the court, a lot of things just kind of go away. It's almost like he's in his element of domain, and they just tend to rise to the occasion, regardless of who's out there. They do what they do, and that's being on the basketball court, and in this case, being on the football field and enjoying what they like to do. Right. So, rather than, engaging each other off the field is the key to them developing a relationship. But when they're on the field, they both come together and work together in order to, for everybody to achieve the goals that they've set out.
Yeah, right. Okay.
We're talking with Bobby Humphrey. But, Bobby, our show's called Inside the Locker Room. Obviously, we were both coaches, and we try to tell people what actually happens in the locker room, what not happens out in front of the camera. With the situation with Cam Robinson and Hootie Jones, you know, as teammates of those guys, Marlon, those guys probably hurt for those guys because, you know, the fans and people are probably beating them up, saying things about them that are not true. But, you know, how do those guys stand up for those guys? I can probably see those guys walking in the locker room and probably Marlon and some of those guys walk up and slap them upside the head like, well, what the crap were you doing? But just kind of talk about how the teammates have each other's back and they support each other during these tough times like that.
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of kind of like challenging and supporting.
Yeah.
You know, you challenge each other to make sure you do the right things, but then you also support them when you make a mistake. And that's the good thing about being in a locker room. It doesn't make a difference ethnicity, you know, where your background is, you know, your income status, you know, everybody in that locker room becomes a team. Black, white, Latino, you know, it doesn't make a difference. You're on the same team, and you're going to support one another. You know, obviously you don't condone some of the things that, the mistakes that we make, which we all do, but that doesn't mean we don't support them and try to help them to try to be able to kind of put one foot in front of the other each and every day to try to be positive and reach things that they try to do things they come to do. So you're absolutely right. Those guys going to slap across the head, get on them, but then they're going to turn right back around and going to love on them and encourage them to get through the situation that they've put themselves in.
As we look at this defense this year and we try to, you know, to see who's going to be the leader on this team, I think Ashawn Robinson was the guy last year that, yeah, he led by his play, but he also, if they weren't having a great practice or whatever, they talked about, hey, he'd grab them up. Who will lead this defense from the outside looking in, do you think, this season?
You know, from the outside looking in, I'll tell you somebody that I've been very just very, very impressed with the way he's carried himself, you know, last year particularly, and how I've seen him conduct himself in the spring game. You know, with putting people in place, you know, kind of being the field general, and that's Reuben Foster. You know, now obviously you got Jonathan Allen, who's going to be who returned back for his last and final year. You know, will be one of those guys on the defensive line. But I think Reuben Foster is one of the guys that everybody kind of look up to. Now, this is just my person, just from me, from a, you know, Eagles eye view from in the stands and just noticing that, you know, how people respond to Reuben. But I think he would be probably one of the leaders. And I'm not so sure if he wasn't a part of the you know, 4 or 5 guys that were leaders last year. May not be, you know, the head guy, like you said, Ashawn Robinson, probably that guy. I think Reuben could be that guy. I really do. Offensively, I'm not exactly sure right now. But I would imagine before week 4, 5, or 6 rolls around, I know Coach Saban would like to have one before then. But I think they're going to need to. Somebody on offense is going to need to emerge and kind of be the guy for the offense side of the ball. But overall, I think Reuben Foster could be that guy.
Bobby, how has offensive football changed since you were playing at Alabama?
Coach, I really believe the skill set of the kids nowadays are way ahead of when we were coming out during the times in the mid-'80s. Yeah. And a lot of that has to do with the 7-on-7, with the coaching that the younger kids get in middle school, well, really in rec ball. If you think about it, you know, when I was coaching rec ball, I had David Smith, who was the coach against me. Now, you're talking about a college quarterback who started for one of the prestigious universities in the country and an all-pro running back, head coaches for different teams, and had really good coaching staff. So I think the coaching that they get at the early age, the amount of, you know, workout facilities, the amount of 7-on-7 that skilled guys can get to compete in, it has really, really elevated the level of play within the defensive backfield as well as on the wide receiver offensive side of the ball, and most importantly, the quarterback.
Yeah.
Coach, when you came to the ball games that Brian did when I played, we ran the ball about 80% of the time.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Now I'm not so sure if that is either 50-50 or possibly could be 60% passing and probably 40% running now.
Yeah.
And that's only because of the quarterback and the ability to skill guys. The receivers now are much more athletic. The defensive backs are the same. So I think that part of the game has changed tremendously to where now you can put 3 wide receivers that are very, very good on one team, and they can make things happen in the passing game, where back then you may have 1 or maybe 2 good wide receivers on the team, and that was about it. So I think that part of the game has changed tremendously.
Yeah, I think you're right. Barry?
Bobby, we were arguing about this earlier in the show about the one, players are players, but fans are fans. But if you look at Alabama's schedule this year, I think the one game that has the Alabama fans and maybe even the players just salivate like they can't wait to get to it. Yeah, not LSU, although it's going to be tough. Not Tennessee. But I think it's Ole Miss, and Dad kind of argues with me about that, but I think it's because Ole Miss has beat Alabama 2 times in a row. The juices just seem to be flowing when you talk about Ole Miss, which I can't believe I'm even saying that right now. But
I like to argue, Bobby.
Bobby, when we were talking about the game, you get up for every game you try to as a player, but there's some you're going to get up for a little more than others. Talk about that Ole Miss game. Do you think that's one that these guys got circled?
Yeah, I think this is one of the guys that stuck. It's hard to believe that, over the years of watching playing and then watching the SEC, that here in July we'll be talking about Ole Miss. Usually that conversation is about either LSU or Auburn. That's in the West I'm talking about. But Ole Miss has really emerged as a really dominant program, and I tell you, their offense really gives you when you're talking about multiple set motions and things that they do offensively, and they got some pretty good skill guys and have done some really good job of getting guys that play football. They've turned into a really, really good football team. And I tell you, after the last couple of years, I would imagine that game is highlighted on the list. I know, especially among fans, it is.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I know Alabama look at it as a one game at a time type deal, but boy, I can't wait to go over there and see if we can return a little bit of a favor they dished out to us this past year.
No doubt.
How do you and your wife act at the games?
Well, we are those crazy fans. Hey, I enjoy the ball game. I'm telling you.
When you win the national championship, Bobby, it's pretty easy to enjoy the games.
Hey, it wasn't like that in the beginning, though.
Yeah, that's true.
I think we stayed up there. We were probably more nervous than Marlon was every game. It probably never fazed him, but Mom and Dad sat up there on pins and needles, praying that, son, you better do the right stuff. Don't get beat. Don't bust plays. Don't do this. And, oh, my God, we were a nervous wreck in stand. But we finally started to settle down once we thought we realized that he knew what he was doing. He probably knew what he was doing. Saban wouldn't have put him out there if he didn't. But you know how parents are. You kind of nervous for your child. But I'm telling you, man, we had a ball. And it does have to be to win that championship.
Well, talk about Marlon and those guys. We're in the summer now. What does their day consist of? What time do they go lift weights? Just kind of talk about their day during the summer.
Well, it's school and working out. Believe it or not, preparation is the key to success. And, those guys are getting their bodies conditioned. And I'm not exactly sure what their timetable and what they do, but he's pretty much busy all during the day. With school and class, and with weights and running and lifting, and then you basically study hall. And they get a few breaks here and there, but they get a chance to kind of, enjoy each other. And this is the time in the off season when you get to really know a little bit more about your teammates. Obviously you get a chance to go visit the home of some of your teammates. So he's kind of, been here and there with visiting, going home with some of the guys on the team. So it's one of those combinations of staying focused and getting your body ready, but also, not the intense pressure of getting ready for a big ball game.
I want to mention you. I'm tired of talking about them. I want to talk about you. You're up for the Hall of Fame, National Football Hall of Fame. Where does that stand?
I'm not sure right now. I think the voting process is taking place. I don't know how long that takes place. But then I think here they will kind of make a decision close to the first of the year. But I'm not exactly sure where it stands right now. Well, I tell you, it's just quite an honor to be on the ballot for the College Football Hall of Fame. It's hard to believe as a kid from Hillerton Village, right across the street from Legion Field, Soul coaching the upper deck.
Yeah.
And now being considered for a Hall of Fame. Well, I don't know if you knew this or not, but, my mom did not want me to play football. She denied me 2 years.
Yeah, I know.
I came up with this brilliant plan to join the team without her knowledge, but obviously like kids do, they think, they can do something and not get caught. I got caught out the first time.
I understand.
It's kind of hard to play on a football team and your mama not find out.
Well, after you found out how good you were, all those coaches running by there, and I know what Jimmy was doing. Jimmy was there every 5 minutes. I know Jimmy. I know how he was. He's there every 5. He's like I was. He's there every 5 minutes.
Yeah, Bobby's probably rolled his eyes. Oh God, here he comes again. Bobby, talk about your time in Alabama. I wish they still had the athletic dorms over there where all the guys lived together. I know the football guys and basketball guys lived over there in Bryan Hall. Y'all were really close, pulled for one another. I wish they still had athletic dorms where all the athletes were over there together. Just trying to talk about that time when you were down here in university.
Oh man, that was a fun time to be around. You had the basketball players and the football players in that facility over there, and boy, we got to know, and I'm still friends. Matter of fact, I talked to Derek McKee a lot, and I talk to him every blue moon, and I often speak to Terry Connors and some of those guys. But it was just fun, and you was able to create a really, really tight fit bond. And it wasn't just a bond with the football team, your teammates, but it was a bond with the basketball players as well. You kind of did a lot of things together. It was kind of like if one went, we all went. So it was some really cool things that we established, and I think that has what created such an after career experience, because a lot of the guys that we spend time with in the dorm, we still communicate, we still talk, we still go out and fellowship, and so it created some lifelong friendships. When you're talking about being in one place together and being able to learn a little bit more about each other. But it was a lot of fun. I tell you, boy, we used to go to the basketball games. Boy, we used to have some fun. We kept our eyes on Coach more than we kept it on the team. He's going to do something on that sideline that's going to have us laugh. Yeah. We'll go back to the dorm and march him.
Yeah, there's probably some guys back over there imitating. I know Melvin Cheatham. He can imitate it to a T. He'll do things like how he used to pick up Bobby. He'd talk to the team and he'd pick up lint off the ground, like pick up stuff that wasn't even there. They used to throw a bunch of little lint out there before he'd come in, so he'd pick it up during his pregame speech each time.
That wasn't very nice of those guys to throw that lint down there, because I don't know why I picked up lint when I talked to him. I guess I don't know why I did that.
One time he wouldn't let them eat. They lost on the road, wouldn't let them eat. He just kicked a box of sandwiches. Marcus Webb was mad. Woo, he was mad. Bobby, he didn't get to eat.
He didn't deserve to eat anyway. Marcus Webb played. Bobby, we appreciate you being on, my man.
You guys take care. Have a great day.
Okay, we'll get you back on again for long. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Bob.